Okay, MJ Struy says, I've been rewatching the first season of Mythbusters, and it occurred to me that I am now 3 years older than you were when the show started. Okay. I am struck by how young you seem when compared to today, and how much experience you've gained since then. It has been over 20 years since we shot the first season of Mythbusters. Or, yeah, it's exactly 20 years. It gave me hope, they said, that there's still time to do many of the things that I give myself a hard time for not having done yet. Looking back, what advice or thoughts would you give your younger self at age 35? It's great. It's a lovely question. And it's a terrific kind of zoom out to do. I remember telling my son when he was a junior in high school. When you're a junior in high school, you feel like you got it wired, right? You're like, I understand how high school works. I don't have to worry about college yet. Junior year, I am coasting. Things are good. And I said to my son at that point, thing two, I said, do you remember what it felt like when you first entered this school? The school he went to high school at, Oakland School for the Arts. And he said, yeah. I said, do you remember thinking that you knew stuff and then like a year later realizing how much you didn't know? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I said, that's going to continue for the rest of your life. You're always going to look back on old you and be like, I can't believe what I didn't know. I can't believe how young I was. I can't believe what I did not yet understand. And, that's just growing older. But the advice or thoughts to give your young self at age 35 is time moves fast, and yet there's more time than you think. And there's more space than you think. I think we think of, Einstein proved that time and space were the same thing, but let's talk about those emotionally. You have more space than you think to go do those things that are on your bucket list or things that you'd always wanted to achieve or do. It saddens me in this country, and there's a much more open discussion about this that we used to ask, and I don't know if we still do this, but like adults love to ask little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which is just the worst question in the world, because there's no such, late stage capitalism has proven that there's no loyalty from any job anywhere for any reason. And most people don't go and do one thing for their whole lives. Even when they go get a degree in a thing and they go do that job for a while, they may change. I have a friend who was a top editor in Hollywood who in their late life went and got a degree as a marriage and family therapist. They had a full career as an important and wonderful editor and filmmaker, and then now they're doing something totally different. I love that. My partner, my wife, went to school for English literature, got a master's in poetry, got a second master's in marriage and family therapy in her 50s. I love, love, love the expansion that new experience brings like that. So I remember I had a cooperative gallery in New York with a group of friends in 1986, 87 called Points of Departure. We ran it for a year. It was on First Avenue and First Street, just west of that flower shop that's right there. It was Little Ricky's. Little Ricky's was like one of the all-time great tchotchke stores. Their tagline was, where the Pope shops for Dolly Parton. And it's exactly that kind of store. Boxing nuns, you can buy them all day long there. Anyway, Little Ricky shut down, and we rented that space for a year. And I was putting up a show, and the first show we did was artwork from all the participants. And my friend Craig had done a lot of welding in college, and he had this welded sculpture. And I just remember putting up his welded sculpture and thinking, wow, this feels like heavy and permanent. And then thinking, welding, man, there's something I'm never going to have time to learn. And I go back to that frequently. I go back to that version of me and think, what a maroon, what an nincompoop. yeah, the unknown of welding was so huge that I wrote it off in my head. And this is the thing, is like, you may never get around to welding, but don't rule anything out. Okay, so there's some other pieces of advice that I would say. And I mean, a lot of my advice that I would give to young me has to do with the serenity pair. Grant me the wisdom to know the things I cannot change and the things I can't, and to know the difference between those two things. The courage to change the wisdom to know what I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm getting it slightly wrong. I apologize, friends of Bill. But one of the things that I ask myself when I'm afraid of a situation, one of the things I have learned to ask myself when I am anticipating something poorly, i.e. I'm like not looking forward to something, is I've learned to ask myself, what are the actual stakes? How important is this if it doesn't go the way you want it to go? Is it disastrous? Rarely. And this is part and parcel of what I started talking about at the beginning of this live stream, which is about that emotionality and not taking it personally. A corollary of this came to me while working with Jamie at one point, where he was doing one of his... Jamie loves to be recalcitrant. He likes being the outlier. He really does not mind being the outlier. And we were arguing about a fence. That's it. That's what it was. Okay, we're doing Archimedes' Death Ray. We're filming on the shore of Alameda facing San Francisco. And we know that we're going to have 500 students from the high school where Jamie's wife taught, Encinal, and they're all going to be holding mirrors. And we want them to aim those mirrors at the boat. Now, we've discovered already that it's quite difficult to aim mirrors at a thing collectively, even with 8 people, because it's very difficult for each person to know which is their reflection. And you can easily get lost. I mean, it's really remarkable. Set up 8 people and the sun and 8 hand mirrors, and you'll be astounded by how hard it is to get all 8 reflections to coalesce. Now, we're trying to do this across 500, and the idea we came up with was, let's put up a very airy fence, like netting, and when we shine the mirror through the netting, if we're holding it right here, we're actually able to see that the reflection is hitting the fence between us and the object. It's giving us an aiming reticule. The problem with aiming a mirror is that the aiming reticule has to be static. It can't be attached to the mirror. I could go deeper into that, but it's not really important. What's important is the proper aiming reticule for reflecting a mirror has to be mounted on the ground. So we used a fence, and then we were arguing about the color of the fence. And Jamie said, well, the fence should be black. You could order it in white plastic or black plastic. And Jamie said we should order it in black plastic. And I said, no, we should not order it in black plastic. And he said, why? And I said, because I won't be able to see the light coming back to me from the black plastic where I will be from the white. And I said, because the white reflects more photons than the black. And Jamie gave me one of those looks where he was like, oh, if you say so, but like, is that really true? Like the smile, like, oh, I'm asking that question, I'm the outlier. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are we really about to argue over whether more photons are reflected by a white surface than a black surface? And then I had this thought, do I have to solve this problem now, i.e. getting Jamie to agree with me? Or will the world solve this problem for me later? That phrase, oh my God, that phrase has freed me so much in my later life. Do I have to solve this problem now, or will the world solve this problem for me later? And boy, did the world solve the problem, because we got a black fence. We lined it up. It was like 400 or 500 feet of black fence, and it totally didn't work. And somebody had to go get a paint roller and paint this stupid black fence white. Ha! Sorry for yelling. I still feel vindicated. I let the world solve the problem for me, knowing that it would take probably about 2 hours to solve this problem later. I don't want to argue about it anymore. Sure, order the fence you want. I am not going to engage in an argument about photon reflecting and color. Yeah, I would have given young me that. that piece of advice. And then, yeah, plenty of time. MJ Struy, thank you so much for that great question. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.